In all of the coding languages, there are only two fundamental statements, conditional and loop. By mastering these two statements, you can use coding to solve many problems. In this video, we're going to introduce conditional. Let's get started on the third problem in Python 39. This problem requires us to write a function called odd. When we put an integer into the function, it will determine whether or not the integer is odd. If yes, the function will return true as a result. If it is not odd, the function will return false. Here, true and false are called Boolean. Like an integer, a Boolean is a data type as well. However, while an integer has an infinite number of values, Boolean only has two. They are only used to indicate true or false. Now let's work on this problem. Here we write def odd, parentheses, and colon. Since this function takes an integer as an input, we add num in the parentheses. Then we need to set up the function to determine whether or not the value of num is an odd number. So what is an odd number? It is a number which cannot be divided by 2. So here we write if num %2 double equal sign 0 colon within the function. Under this statement, there is an indentation, and then we write return false. This means that if the input number is divisible by 2, the function will return false as a result. Here, we will introduce a trick. When you see code with unclear meaning, you can use a Jupyter notebook for reference, in which you can run the code and see the result. For example, if we don't know the meaning of the % sign, we can open up a Jupyter notebook and then try 3%2 and run it. The result is 1. In the next line, we put in 4%2. The result is 0. Now let's try 8%3, and we get 2. Through these results, we can conclude that in Python, the % sign returns the remainder. Let's get back to Python 39. There is a double equal sign in the function. Let's try out this symbol in a Jupyter notebook. As we know, a single equal sign is an assignment operator. For example, we write 8 equals 3 and then run the variable a by itself. The result is 3. This indicates that the value of a is 3. In the next line, we write a equals 4. Let's run the variable a alone. The result is 4. The previous statement has reassigned 4 to the variable a. Now let's try a double equal sign 5. The result is false. When we run the variable a alone, we get 4. We see that rather than assigning value, the double equal sign is used in Python to determine whether or not the values of the left and right sides are equal. It then returns a Boolean accordingly. Let's go back to Python 39 and submit the function. Python reported an error. When the input number is 3, none is returned as the output, which means nothing is returned by the function. This is because when num is an odd number, the if statement will be false. So the function will skip the rest of the code within the if statement on the third line and returns nothing. To solve this issue, we need to add if num %2 exclamation mark equal 0 colon, and below it add return true. The exclamation mark and equal sign means not equal to. Note that the two if statements should be aligned vertically. This is because if the second if statement is indented, it will be considered as the internal code of the first if statement. Then, when num is an odd number, the second if statement will be skipped as well. If you're interested, you can try it out and see for yourself. Now let's submit the modified function. The test is successful. Here, if num is an odd number and the if statement in line 2 is false, then the function will skip line 3 and run line 4 instead. In the case of the if statement in line 4 being true, the function will run line 5 and return true. Let's try to improve this function. As we know, an integer can only be odd or even. So when the first statement determines that num is not even, there is no need to double check whether or not it is odd in the second one. In line 4, we can rewrite the code to else. When the if statement in line 2 is false, the function will run the statement under else. Let's click submit now. This code is also correct. We can improve the function even more. When the value of the if statement is a Boolean, and we also need to return a Boolean, the value of the if statement can be returned directly as the output. Let's rewrite the code to return num %2 equals 0. When num is odd, the value returned is true. When num is even, the value returned is false. Therefore, the value of the Boolean can be returned directly as the result. Let's click submit. This code is also correct. If the enhanced functions are too hard for you to understand or imagine, there's no need to fear. As beginners, you can focus on getting the correct results for now. All you need is to master just one of these functions mentioned in this course. When you gain more knowledge and experience, you will be able to find the optimal function yourself.